Hello YouTube, this is MTGeezers and we are bringing you the second video in our Reforged-complete set review, and this time we're having a quick look over all of the blue cards. So we're going to jump straight into it now with Aven Surveyor. So for 5 mana, 3 colourless and 2 blue, you're getting a 2/2 flying creature, and with it, when it enters the battlefield, you can either put a 1/1 counter on it or return a creature to its owner's hand. I think this is going to be absolutely great in draft and sealed formats because obviously you're getting a strong-bodied flyer that can be a 3/3, or you can bounce on their creatures as well. So it's really great for that, but obviously will not be played in standard. Next we've got Cloud Form, another one of the form cards, and it's exactly the same as the white one, except costs 2 blue instead of 2 white. Enter battlefield, becomes an aura, and you manifest the top card. I think this is a good card, but we'll have to wait and see how powerful the manifest mechanic is. Next we've got Enchanted Awareness, which is 4 generic and 1 blue. Instant speed, you draw 3 cards and then discard a card. This is kind of like Jace's Ingenuity, but you've also got to discard a card, so it's not quite as good. Obviously this one's only common and Jace's Ingenuity wasn't uncommon, but I don't think this will see as much play. Good in sealed formats, but will not see play in standard for a while, if at all. Next we've got Fascination, which for 2 blue and X, it's sorcery speed. Each player draws X cards, or each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. I really like this card. I think it worked quite well with the delve mechanic, obviously, because you're fueling up your graveyard by quite a big stack. Apart from that, I think that each player draws X cards it's alright. Obviously, there's no card advantage gained because you're giving your opponent the cards back, but it's a decent card nevertheless, and it could see play in standard, definitely in sealed. Next have Frostwalker. Now this is one of my favourite cards I've seen in the set, and this is what me to play blue at the pre-release, because for 2 mana you're getting a 4/1, and this is an uncommon. Obviously when it becomes the target of a spell or ability you have to sacrifice it, but this is just an absolutely insane card. I really like it. The power on this is amazing, and if they don't get out a 1 or 2 drop, you can really start threatening them quite early with this card. Next we've got Jeskai Infiltrator, which is 3 mana for a 2/3. It can't be blocked as long as you control no other creatures, so almost unblockable but a little bit worse. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you exile it and the top card of your library in a face-down pile, shuffle that pile, and then manifest those cards. So I think it's a really good card. I think it might see play in standard, but I'm not quite sure. Definitely will see play in sealed. I looked through some modern decks, and there are a few that might be able to run it, but it's not strong enough because it's not unblockable. So yeah, that's about as much play as it will see. Next we've got Jeskai Runemark, 3 mana, enchant creature gets +2/+2, and it has flying as long as you control a red or white permanent. This is a bit like the Abzan one we saw, where if you control a black or green permanent, it gains vigilance. Good for sealed formats, not very good for standard. We've got Jeskai Sage here, 2 mana for a 1/1 with prowess, and when it dies you get to draw a card. Really decent in sealed formats, however, again, not that great in standard. Drawing a card's obviously great for blue. Blue likes card advantage, and the prowess could be useful on this. It depends what kind of deck it's in. Lotus Path Degen, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that one. It's 4 mana for a 2/3 with flying and prowess. So pretty basic vanilla text creature. I think it will do alright in sealed formats, draft as well, things like that. Won't be played in standard or many other formats, maybe Pauper if you're into that, but I don't think anything else. Next we've got Morang River Prowler, which is 3 mana for a 2/1. It can't block and it cannot be blocked. So you may cast it from your graveyard as long as you control a black or green permanent. So we're seeing a lot of cards like this. You may do something as long as you control the next 2 colours from that Khan. So this one's based around the Sultai Khan. I really like it. 3 mana for a 2/1's a bit expensive. It's got unblockable yet, but it also can't block. And then returning it's obviously really powerful. Reminds me a bit of that black card we saw from M15. I can't remember the name of, but for 1 black, the 2/1 that you can return. So it's an alright card. I think it could see a bit of play. Mindscour Dragon is the dragon for the blue colour. It's 4 generic and 2 blue for a 4/4 flying. And whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. I don't think this will see play in standard or modern or anything else. However, in draft and sealed, this is absolutely crazy. If you think about it, in draft and sealed formats, your opponent's library is only 40 cards, so milling a 10th of their library every turn and hitting them for 4 is pretty damn good, and I'll be pretty happy to open some of these in my pre-release. Next we've got Misfire Adept, which is 3 generic and 1 blue for a 3/3 with prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature gains flying until end of turn. Now this is really sweet. You can cast a pump spell on this card, make it a 5/5 or whatever, and then it gains flying until end of turn. Plus it's got prowess, so it will get even bigger, maybe a 6/6 from just +2/+2. I really like the card. I think it's really powerful, and it could even see play in standard. Next we've got Monastery Siege, which is another of the siege cards for 3 mana. Choose Khans or Dragons. If you choose Khans at the beginning of your draw step, you can draw an additional card, then discard a card, so you're looting. And Dragons, suppose your opponents cast that target to you, or a permanent you control, costs 2 more to cast. I think this is a pretty strong card. You get a bit of card advantage every turn. Obviously you're drawing and discarding, but you could just discard lands from your hand. Could see play in standard, might not. It's alright, not really sure what to think about it. Neutralizing Blast is one of my favourite cards from the set. As you guys know, have been keeping up with the channel, I'm playing blue-black control at the moment, and this is a really sweet counterspell. Just for 2 mana at instant speed, countering a multicolored spell. It will be played in sideboards absolutely everywhere. Can definitely see play in draft, sealed, everything. Probably not modern. The counterspells in modern are pretty overpowered, but nevertheless, it is a really sweet card. Rakashaka's Disdain is 3 mana for instant speed. Counter-target spell unless its controller plays 1 for each card in your graveyard. Now, I actually quite like this. It's obviously not going to be played in standard because you can just get counter spells for 3 like Dissolve where you get Scry as well. However, in draft this is pretty solid, especially if it's a bit late game and you've got about 4 or 5 cards, maybe even 10 cards in your graveyard. They're obviously not going to be able to stop you countering that spell. So it's a 3 mana counter spell in those formats. Really cool. Next we've got Reality Shift, 2 mana for an instant speed, exile target creature, and its controller manifests the top card of his or her library. I love this spell. It's a 2 mana instant speed removal spell that exiles the creature, which is really important against the Sultai decks and the Whip decks at the moment. And then they get to manifest the top card of the library, so they do get a 2/2, which they could turn face up. But to be honest, that doesn't really matter if you're getting rid of a bigger threat like a Siege Rhino, Stormbreath Dragon, etc. Really sweet card, and I will definitely be playing this in my blue-black control deck. Refocus is 2 mana for instant, untap a creature and draw a card. It's an alright card, won't be played in standard, will be played in draft and sealed. Renowned Weaponsmith is 2 mana for a 1/3, and you can tap it to add 2 mana to your mana pool to spend this casting artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. And if you pay a blue and tap it, you can search your library for a card named Heartpiercer Bow or Vial of Dragonfire, reveal it and put it into your hand. I think this is really made more for standard because you could build a deck around this quite well. You can add 2 mana to your mana pool with it. It's got a solid body. It's a 1/3. And you can search your library for Heartpiercer Bow or Vial of Dragonfire, which obviously I'm not probably going to open in the pre-release. I don't know. It's a good card. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how much it will be played. Modern? Possibly. Maybe in the modern artifact decks it will see play. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Next we've got Rite of Undoing, which is 4 generic and 1 blue for an instant with Delve. Return target non-land permanent you control and target non-land permanent you don't control to their owner's hands. This is really sweet if they point a removal spell at one of your creatures, because for 5 mana you can return the creature to your hand, saving it, and then bounce one of their potential attackers or defenders as well. Really like the card. Probably not played in standard. We do have much better bounce and removal spells in standard, but really sweet for your pre-release. Sage Eye Avengers is 4 generic and 2 blue for a 4/5 with prowess, and when it attacks you may return target creature to its owner's hand if its power is less than Sage Eye Avengers' power. Now this is pretty good. It can return all of the dragons in your pre-release if someone's playing the dragons, and the great thing I love about this is you can just pump it a little bit. If you put an enchantment on it, giving it +2/+2 or whatever, or you just pump it for the turn, you can pretty much bounce most of their creatures. In sealed formats, their creatures aren't going to be much bigger than 4/4s or 5/5s, so I really like this card. It's really good. Not be played in standard, probably. It might be, I don't know. We'll have to see if anyone builds a deck around it, but it would be one of those cards you'd have to build a deck around. Shifting Loyalties is our next card for 5 generic and 1 blue. Exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a card type, so artifacts, creatures, enchantments, lands, and planeswalkers. I quite like this card. If you're playing a blue deck and you get out a cheap planeswalker like Ashiok or something, and it's got to late game and they've got out an Ugin or something, you can swap control of those and that would be really powerful. I don't think it will be played in standard because sorcery speed and the mana cost is quite steep, but it's definitely quite a bomb in limited. You can swap over to creatures or artifacts, etc., lands if you're screwed with your mana, whatever. It's a pretty good card. Shu Yun the Silent Tempest is 3 mana for a 3/2 with prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell you may pay 2 either red or white, and if you do, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Obviously made for Jeskai decks that are playing all 3 of those colours. The double strike is really relevant, especially in a prowess deck when you can fire off loads of instant sorceries and enchantments, possibly burn spells to the face. Creatures get massive, and then you can pay 2 and double strike it. If you're hitting them for 5, you're now hitting them for 10, plus a few burn spells in there. It gets really out of control really quickly, and I think this has got quite a lot of potential. I don't think it will be played in many standard decks, however it could be. We will have to wait and see what the metagame brings us. Sultai Skullkeeper is 2 mana for a 2/1. When it enters battlefield, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. 2 mana for a 2/1 is okay in sealed. I don't think this card will be played in standard. And you get to mill the top 2 cards of your library, which is good with some of the delve cards. I don't know how much play it will see. It's alright, maybe even sealed. I don't know. Succulent Form is 6 mana, instant speed. Return target creature to its owner's hand, and you put a token onto battlefield that's a copy of that creature. The thing I love about this is its instant speed, so they can declare attackers with their massive 4/4 dragon. You bounce it, and then you have a 4/4 dragon, so on your turn you can swing and they can't block your dragon. You're basically delaying them by 2 turns, and you're getting to copy their best creature. Really like it. Probably won't be played in standard, but I can definitely see play for this in sealed and draft, and I think it's going to be a really fun card to play with. Temporal's Trespass. Now this is one of the coolest cards in the set, but its mana cost is so ridiculous. Even with Delve, you're paying 11 mana to take an extra turn after this one. I was thinking of running it in my control deck for standard, but obviously what can the control decks do with an extra turn? They draw an extra card, possible extra swing with Pearl Lake or plus with Ashiok or whatever you're doing. It's alright, but if you're playing it for 3 mana, it's absolutely insane, no doubt about it. But apart from that, when you've exiled a few cards from your graveyard, it's just not worth it. Torrent Elemental is 5 mana for a 3/5 flying, and when it attacks, tap all creatures defending player controls. And if you play 3 generic and a black-green, you can put it from exile onto the battlefield tapped. And you have to activate this ability anytime you cast a sorcery. This card is going to be absolutely bonkers in draft and sealed. It's going to be a really fun way to win, tapping down all their creatures. I think it might even see play in standard as the win con for some of the blue decks. A 3/5 fly is pretty good for 5 mana. Tapping all down their defenders is really sweet. And then obviously you can get it back onto the battlefield on your turn. It's alright. I really like it. I don't know how much play it will see. Whisk Away is 3 mana for an instant speed. Put target attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. Again, some nice removal for blue. There's quite a lot of it, so it's nice to have just that little bit more. Will definitely be played in draft. Will of the Naga is 6 mana for an instant speed with Delve, and tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. You can do this theoretically from turn 2, which I really like, and it's also a great way for the blue decks to just have their finisher. If your opponent's got 2 blockers and you just can't get that last bit of damage through, for the potential 2 mana, you can just tap down the 2 blockers. They won't untap, so you can get 2 attack phases in there. Really sweet card. Really like it. And finally, the final blue card is Right Into Being. 3 mana, sorcery speed. Look at the top 2 cards of your library and manifest one of them and put the other on the top or bottom of your library. Really like this card. Obviously, if you see a strong creature, you can manifest that one down, so you're giving yourself a bit of card advantage. And if the other card's something you don't need, like a land, you can shove it to the bottom. And if you do need it, you can keep it there, so the second bit of this card is kind of like a scry ability. And that wraps up our video. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you're new to the channel, please take a quick moment to subscribe. Like this video, share it, leave comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. That's the second part of our complete set review for Fate Reforged. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.